Hello everyone. It is a beautiful rainy day here in Las Vegas, and I thought what would be more fun than creating my first ever tutorial video. If you're a writer and like me, an organization junkie, you are going to love this magical tool that helps keep everything in your story world straight. So if you are ready to learn about Airtable and how to set it up to organize your novel, let's dive in. Okay, so if you haven't used or even heard of Airtable before, it's kind of a magical combination of spreadsheet and database and rainbow colored visual wonderland. This makes it the perfect tool for creating a story or series Bible. And if you are at all a visual learner, guilty, then you will love Airtable. And the best part, it's free. You can, of course, upgrade for premium features. I promise you won't need them, but the additional color options are really fun. So are you ready to see how Airtable can help you plan or write a book yet? I thought you'd never ask. After you've signed up for your Airtable account, and if you want a clean slate like I do, deleted all the sample bases that they give you, then you are ready to create your first base. Click Add a Base and select Start from Scratch. You can check out their templates if you want, but I always find it easier to just make my own. So you're going to name your base, which I'm going to name this one My Novel. You can choose a color, like let's go for pink, and an icon, which I'm going to choose this book icon right here. This is awesome because the color and icon become the favicon, which will be used in your browser tab or your bookmarks list, which makes it really easy to spot it in your browser. So now we're going to click on this base to open it. You should see a table, which is called brilliantly Table 1 by default, and 3 fields, the name field, the notes field, and the attachments field. Now, each of these is a different field type: single line text, long text, and attachment, to which you can attach either by uploading or dragging and dropping image files or documents or any of these other kinds of file types that you want to attach to your record. So we're going to start making our changes here. We're going to right click or click on this little arrow here for the attachments field and delete it because we're not going to need it in this particular table. Now this table here is going to become our plotting table. So we're going to rename it either by double clicking on this here, or you can either right click or select this little drop down arrow and select rename table. And we're going to call this one scenes. And we're going to do the same thing on this name field. We're going to double click on it or right click and choose customize field type. I'm going to change the name of the field to scene, and we're going to change the field type to auto number. I like to do that because that will just generate a 1, 2, 3, in order in which they're created. If you prefer to name your scenes or chapters, you can just leave it as that single line text and put in the name of the scene or chapter there. On the notes one, we're going to change the name to summary because it's already a long text field, which is really good for writing a description of a chapter or a scene or what's going to happen in it. So we're just going to leave it like that. And next, we're going to make a new table by clicking this plus sign up here to create an empty table. We're going to name this one Characters. This time I'm going to change the name field to character. I'm going to change the attachments field, we'll call it images. And then I'm going to leave the notes field just how it is. So if you have any notes about your characters, you can just type them in there. Then we're going to create another empty table and call this one settings. I'm going to change the name field to setting, the attachment field again to images. Oops. And leave the notes field as is. And finally, we're going to create one more table, which is going to be called research. This is going to be especially helpful if you're setting your book in a real place or in a historical time period, to keep track of all of this in the same place where you're doing your plotting and planning. I'm going to change the name field to topic or whatever makes sense to you. The attachment field, this time I'm going to change it to files because you might have like a PDF you download from somewhere or some other type of document, not just an image. I'm going to leave the notes here, and then I'm going to create another field at the end that I'm going to name links. And this blue box lets us choose which type of field type we want. And for this one, I'm going to choose URL, which means it's going to be a link. So if you pasted a link into this field, it's going to automatically make it a clickable link if you want to, access it easily. So you can save all your links for your research in this same document. So at this point, all of the tables that we've created are basically acting like simple spreadsheets, like something you could create in an Excel file or a Google Sheet, like nothing all that awesome. So in order for us to start like looking at what the super magical abilities of Airtable are, I want you to fill in at this point as much as you know about each of these fields as possible, or at least enough to like get started. So I'm going to go pause for a second and go grab a sample filled document that I've already made, and I will be back to show you what those look like. I have filled in a bunch of sample data from a novella that I am currently working on. I've only put in the first 3 scenes, the first or 4 of the bigger characters in the work, some of the settings, and I didn't really do any research for this, but I created some like sample research information to show you. So now we're going to start making connections between these tables, which is where the magic begins. We're going to start on the characters table, and you're going to click on this plus sign right here next to images, and we're going to create a new field. I'm going to call it scenes because that is the table we're going to link it to. And then on this field type, we're going to choose link to another record, and then we're going to choose scenes. So it is going to connect this table to the table named scenes. For now, just leave these settings how they are. Now, if you go to the scenes table, you're going to see that it added this characters field right here because characters has been linked to scenes, which means scenes has also been linked to characters. We're going to do the same thing on the settings table. Just create a new field, name it scenes, change it to link to another record, and choose scenes. Now you're going to see that that's also shown up settings now on the scenes table. Now we're going to start creating these links. And in the scenes table, go to whichever scene. So my first scene, Coral and Zach, you can see, are both in the first scene. So I'm going to click this plus sign, and it's going to show up the list of characters that are on the character table. So Coral is in this scene, obviously. Another way you can do it is if you just start typing the character's name, it will pop up the characters from the character sheet that have that name, and you can select them that way. Either way, it has the same answer. So now if you go to the characters table, you will see that scene 1, because I just called it scene 1, is listed under scenes for both Coral and Zach. We can repeat this for every scene that they're in. So in this scene, Coral's in the scene. Zach is also in the scene. Zach's sister, Zanzia, is in the scene. And then in this final third scene, Coral's in the scene, Zach is in the scene, and that's it. You can do the same thing for settings. The first one, it's actually at the school. I didn't create that setting, but we'll pretend it's at the Seaball field. The second one takes place at Zach and Zanzia's house, which is the Marlin house. And then let's say the third scene takes place at Coral's house, which is the Ballinado house. So now you can see on the characters page sheet that it lists all the scenes that Coral is in, all the scenes Zach is in. Zanzia is only in scene 2. Poor Riatus, Coral's older brother, is not in any of these scenes. And on the settings, it shows which setting is in each scene. So why would you want to do this? Link these tables in this way? Well, I'm about to show you where the real magic of Airtable shows up, which is in how you see your data. This is nothing short of a miracle. So by default, every new table that you create is in a grid view, which is this little blue grid-like box up here. By default, they're named grid view. Let's see, like this one is still named grid view. I like to change mine to master list just by double clicking there, because it's basically the master list view that has everything, all the fields showing everything. So I know that when I click on master list view, that I will see everything. So let's start to see this magic by going to the characters table. We're going to create a new view here. So click right here or on the master list, and it's going to show you like all the views that are available. Currently, the only view available is this master list grid view. That was the default view. What we're going to create is a different type. These are all the types that you can choose. Grid, which is like the default. Form, which is really cool if you have a lot of like data type stuff you want to enter or want to create like an idea capture form. Calendar, which is really useful if you have things that are date based. I use that a lot in my marketing calendar, my marketing base. Kanban, which is displays the records in columns sorted by a select field, which is really good for like things that are in status. So if you wanted to, I'm not going to get into that much, but if you wanted to add a status field so you knew where you were in the writing process, and you choose either multiple select or more likely single select for this option, and you say, choose your different statuses for your writing process. And if you assign a status to each of these, depending on where they are, if you create a Kanban view, you choose which field you're grouping by, and then it's going to show them by column. So you can see at a glance like where everything is. That's not really necessarily useful at this stage. So what I want to show you, which is the coolest thing ever, on the characters one, we're going to make a gallery, which basically creates like visual cards of each record. So we're just going to click on gallery. And immediately, because I already had pictures attached in my images field, it has these beautiful cards that show the image of the character, the inspiration image, the name of the character, the notes field. It even shows their images down here and shows their list of scenes down here. You can customize the cards up here by hiding any of these that you don't want to see. Like you don't need to see the images if you already see it up there above on the card. So I think that is just so cool because you're basically creating like a yearbook or, some sort of like visual gallery of your characters that you can look at and like see them in a glance. I think that is so cool. To switch back to the main view, you just click up there on gallery, and now we'll click on master list as our default view. Whatever grid view you're in, and then add a view grid. We are going to name this one by setting. And then we're going to choose group right up here in the middle. And we are going to say choose the field to group by is settings. So when you do this, now every scene is grouped by which setting has been linked to that record. So if you want to know all the scenes that take place at the Ballinado house, they will all show up here. And so you can see which settings are being used, maybe which ones have been underused. If there's a scene that does not have a setting in it, it will be separate. Like they will be in like a separate group together, so you know which scenes still need to like have their settings chosen. And you can choose, so like because they're grouped by settings here, you don't really need to see this settings field over here. So you can choose hide field and hide the settings so it cleans up your view. Okay, so we're going to do one more final piece of magic, which is kind of amazing. So we're going to create another grid view in scenes, and we're going to name it so-and-so's scene. So like your character's name's scene. I'm going to choose, in this example, Zanzia's scenes. And I'm going to click on filter, add a filter, and I'm going to say filter to where character contains. And if you start typing your character's name and you type enough to differentiate them from any other character in your characters table, it will filter so that it only is showing scenes in which that character is attached. So you can easily see where your character is when the character disappears. If you're like me and you tend to like put a secondary character in and maybe have them, you know, really present for the first like third of the book, and then they disappear and you have to like keep track of them to make sure that they are there consistently, then this will really give you a perspective of where they are throughout the book. So that is pretty much the entire introductory tutorial. I don't know about you, but I think that the possibilities of how to use Airtable to organize your writing and keep you on track and write better stories is pretty much unlimited. I use it mostly right now to organize my marketing efforts and another little side project, well, kind of a big side project that you guys are going to hear about soon. But there's just so many different ways to use this and, you know, keep track of everything that you need to know to write your stories. So I'm going to leave you with that, and maybe sometime in the future I'll come back with another tutorial. Wow, that was longer than I expected it to be. And there's still so many more views and field types and features for you to play around with, but I hope that was a good general introduction and that you feel like you can start using Airtable and make it work for you. If you're ready to sign up for Airtable, I'm going to include a link below. That's my referral link where I will earn credit for the premium upgrade version of Airtable and get to play with all the awesome rainbow colors for free. So if you want to sign up for Airtable using that link, that would be really awesome. I will also include a link to the sample base, the My Novel sample base that I used to create this tutorial, which you'll be able to just copy and use in your own Airtable, so you don't have to start from scratch. And in case you were curious about the characters that you saw in the tutorial sample project, I'll also include a link to the short story on my website where you can read all about them. So I hope you like this tutorial. If you have any questions or things that didn't make sense or you want to know more about, just comment below, and hopefully I'll do another one of these soon.